Greetings, BraveHearts and Coach-Madd-Hatters, and welcome to July 23rd, 2019 at 7:42 a.m. This will be my second attempt to record this. The first attempt just had so much background noise that it was unacceptable to me. So here we are. I wanted to pop in real quick and share my time and space with you. So we are in the enfolds of the morning, nestled in the quadrant of Southeast DC. And I really wanted to get this recorded before the city started to buzz. But what's meant to be shall be, right? Okay, so for the last several weeks, I have been engaging in dreamless sleep, or uh, what how can I say? I can't say that if it was, well, I haven't been able to pull them over. I haven't been able to pull them over into consciousness. Let's say that. Um, but for the last 2 nights, my night visions have been serving as messengers if I am to interpret them correctly. So to help with this process, I pulled 3 cards from the Jolly Staffers Oracle deck, and they are as follows. The Queen of Quills, and it goes under the Golden Compass banner. And let me correct that because I actually made it. I made and this is the prototype deck. It has not been commissioned yet, just so we make that clear. Um, it's actually the Queen of Quills and Questions, and it's under the Golden Compass banner. And it's to meditate upon one's pen as a sword, to sharpen your vocabulary and master word craftsmanship. That's card 1. Card number 2 is the Queen of Eureka. Meditate upon your intro to the second powers and wonders and inward dialogue. Increase courtship with self and investigate your unique museology, meaning the interactions and engagements that you know are in conjunction with your invisible guides and ancient muses. And I know I have them written down, like who the muses are, but I can't remember which journal they're in right at this moment. Um, but anyway, off the top of my head, I know that there is a muse for poetry, there's a muse for music, there's a muse for storytelling, there's a muse. Yeah, I can't remember right off the top of my head right at the moment. But you can do an online search and it will tell you about the 9 muses. And so card number 3 is part of an affirmation building process. And the affirmation is, I invite myself to experience and or discover blank. And you are to fill in the blank with that, with whatever it is that you would like to experience and discover more about yourself. And the keynotes and the information gathered through participating or practicing this affirmation, it will be good to journal that journey and remain the observer of that process. Okay, so with that said, let's get back to the last two night visions. Okay, so night before last, and as I said, I believe I mentioned at the start of the recording that it's been several weeks I have been in this dreamless sleep. And I became aware of it, but it did not worry me into contemplation or anything. I just noticed it and just kept on with life. Like, I'm not recalling any of my dreams. So, night before last, um, I was able to pull a small snippet from a scenario that was taking place inside of a kitchen that I had been cultivating in my imagination. And it was of a kitchen that is inside of a home that I have my sights on now. So it gave me the indication that this was more of a futuristic notion because it was laid out exactly as I had envisioned it. And so my shelves of essential oils and all of my fresh herbs and edible flowers and my mahogany wood round table, everything was in place as I had situated it in my imagination, as well as table seat 6, and all seats were filled with the women of my sisterhood. And so that includes my sisters, my biological sisters, as well as a few of my sister girlfriends and a client or two, and as well as one or two that, how can I say this? Women that I only know through the virtual space, but I adore their work and I admire their 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 contributions to the knowledge that is brewing in this day and age. And I'm grappling for words right now because anyway, okay. Before I go tumbling down that rabbit hole. So all the women were sitting around the table and we were deep in conversation. The wine was being passed around and I was actually at the countertops fixing plates and serving plates. And that scene, I can tell why it was there. For one, is because it is something that I find great strength in. I am a hostess. I'm a homesteader and I am a hostess. And in the 21st century, that really is like something of a draconian element, meaning that it is like an ancient practice. Like so many kitchens and dining rooms go unused, like they just so low in energy these days because everyone is mad busy and they would prefer to eat out, like eating out. And it's amazing how this dynamic has been working because it's always been a frustration of mine, mainly because I grew up with my Nana and it was her pride and joy to cook and serve and host in her home. Her dinner parties were incredible. And so it allowed the energy to be brought into the home. And the more and more we go out to these restaurants and celebrate there, we're taking the energy out of the home. And we wonder why we are full of sickness and dis-ease. And because we seem to know or seem to become experts with the whole good energy, bad energy thing, that we become this hyper protective, don't want anybody in my home thing, when that's the very thing that is causing the issues that surround around vacant esteem and tribal reciprocity and things of that nature. So the scene was full of life and there were giggles everywhere. And in addition to the ladies that were in the kitchen, was also my children and my nieces and my nephews. I've always, when I've had the ability to have a home and it was my own space, it was always filled with a lot of human energy, interaction, and movement. Very rarely was the house empty, unless, no, very rarely. Yeah, even during the workday, very rarely was my home empty. So it was always energetic movement, ebbing and flowing through. So we're in the mix, we're chit chatting. Every now and again, a um, a topic will come up that that we all can chime in, and the wave of engagement increases, and such an incredible thing. And so then, as the scene goes on, I feel the presence of someone coming into the kitchen. Now, the way the kitchen is situated, you can come into it from the main hallway or from the dining room. And because I was serving main from the main counter, which is adjacent to the stove, I had my back to the main entrance from the hallway. I could see the clear view of the entrance from the dining room. So I could feel the presence, but like I said, because my grown sons and my daughter and my baby sister, because of all the other activity that was going on, I didn't turn around to see who it was that was coming into the kitchen. Immediately turn around, I should say. What had me turn around was when all of the ladies stopped talking. They stopped talking and they looked up in a direction that's behind me. That's when it made me turn around. And the moment I turned around, it was, and I paused because the identity inside the night vision had not been confirmed. I could sense him, but just like the visualization of his face was not apparent, but his physical dimensions were. And so I'm 5 feet, 5'1" roughly, and he's about 6'1" or 2. And so the presence that I sensed was a very, very dear friend of mine that we have lost contact, but his presence still pops up in my thoughts every now and again. And so when I turned around and I noticed it was him, I immediately embraced him, went into his arms. And so, of course, he had to lean down to reciprocate that embrace, but he instantly stood back up to his stature, lifting me up off the floor. And so, of course, because I am who I am and he is who he is, I wrapped my legs around him and his grip got tighter. And I just began to weep. And so I buried my face in the crook of his neck and I just cried and I cried. And he whispered in my ear and he was like, let it all out. Just let it release from you. You know, I'm here now. Just let it go. And everything's going to be okay and you're safe. And so he literally carried me out of the kitchen that way. and then and then the scene dissolves. There is nothing else after that. So we're going to hold space for that for a moment, and then for me to tell you a little bit about the night vision that I had that woke me up out of my sleep this morning. Um, and so I'm not going to say that I had it last night because it was so very, very fresh on me when I got up this morning at 4 a.m. that I think that that was somewhere around the time that it was taking place. Of course, you know, in those realms it's timeless, so there's really no way to really tell. So what I am able to recall is that I'm driving in the car and I'm driving and my niece April is in the front passenger seat and her baby girl is in the seat right behind her and my daughter who's 25 is in the seat right behind me. And so we are excited and exchanging conversation, getting ready to go to the craft store. And one thing about the all four of us is that we have this unique streak of creativity that leaves me in awe most times when I am able to observe it and bear witness to it. And so my niece, she has her business where she has her growing business because she's accumulating clients now. She is an extraordinary events. I want to say she I'm not, how about this? Let me slow down. I'm not exactly sure if she actually plans events, but I know she puts the ambiance to it. She's the one that comes in and makes it magical. Okay. And I'm not sure, if that would be inside of the event planner or if she is more of the decorating guru. Somehow, some way, when she gets into the space, she makes it magical. And I mean magical. And most of the props and things like that that are part of the space, she creates herself. Some things she'll go by, but mostly like she will, yeah, she's the spray paint and glitter, all of that. It's done from scratch. It amazes me. And so I've always told my daughter and my niece, they have this streak of creativity and they're different in their own right, but they seem to cross paths in their likenesses. So, and, and my great niece, yeah, it's rubbing off on her. So it just delights me to my core. So we're bumping along in the car, we're riding along, and we're talking about whatever this event is that we are all in proxy to contribute to. It's never revealed what the event was, anything like that. But we kept running across homes that had splashes of salmon pink and mint green. Even the chimes hanging out front were combinations of salmon pink and mint green. And so my niece was, constantly pointing like, okay, auntie, this is the color scheme you're talking about, that right there. And so she was pointing to these various houses and wind chimes and things like that. And it's, yes, baby, those are the two exact colors. So she's taking her notes and she's writing things down. And we come across this. traffic jam. And the traffic jam, for some reason, provoked me and my niece to get out. So I parked the car, and my daughter and my great niece is still in the car. And so we walk over to there was a section quite close with of an overpass. So there was an overpass where traffic was going, but even though it was gridlock, it was going in one direction, and the cars below, there was under the underpass, the cars below were going in another direction. What struck me and began to tense me up was the cars on the underpass was dealing with this flood of water that was rapid and hostile, and it was clashing up against the concrete wall, and even though the water was not completely covering the cars, they were also in gridlock, but the water, it was like whitewater rapids. It was just clashing everywhere, and so the people couldn't get out of their cars. Some cars were being taken away by the force of the water, and it was just like just and the water was not clear, but it reminded me of the ride at King's Dominion. And even then, I mean, and it's been years ago, but even being part of that raised my stress levels, where it's like, no, I'm not with this shit. I don't like this. And so I became tensed and worried, very, very worried for those who were trapped inside their car, and just the sight of the volatile water, just it was incredible. It was an incredible sight. And we're at the overpass. We're standing above all of it, looking down at it, and more people were getting out of their cars, which was making the foot traffic and the jam even more congested, and everybody's worried, and they're exchanging, concerns and things like that. So the scene, and it still amazes me how I am recalling this, because me and my niece remove ourselves from the right there at the gate, looking over at the over the overpass, to we meet up with the girls. And then the scene shifts again, where all of a sudden my children's godmom and a guy is now part of it, and we're in this frenzy. We don't know what's going on. Don't nobody know how to, where to go, how to go, what direction we're moving in. None of that. And so this guy like takes charge, and he's just like, we're going to do this, and you are going to do this, and we're going to move in this direction, and we need to go this way, da 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 da. And so that's what we did. Like, and so it's me, my daughter, my niece, her daughter, kid's godmom, and this guy. And so we go into this tall structure with all of these stairs. And I mean, we're climbing. We're climbing stairs, and we climbing, and we're climbing. And I noticed that behind us is a long line of other people. They're also climbing. And we get to a certain point, where he is having us pass the word back. The higher we get, do not look down, do not look back. Stay focused, looking forward, keep climbing, keep climbing. That was the instruction. And so right at the beginning of the line was me and my crew, with the unidentified guy leading kids godmommy right behind him, and then us, and then everyone else. So guess who looks down and look back? Yeah, I did. And it's still most scary to even recollect that, because the moment I did, the encasing that we were traveling. When we first began, the stairs were concrete as well as the encasing, and there were banisters, and so we were in an enclosed, safe space, even though we were, you know, traveling the stairs. The moment I looked down, the stairs turned into this, and I'm not really sure. I'm struggling for words right now. But it turned into like the graded stairs that you could see through, and we were now more on like the landings that looked like a fire escape, an outside fire escape, more so than it did the concrete indwelling that we were traveling at the beginning of this. And I instantly became so frightened that it stopped me. I became paralyzed because I am afraid of heights. It's an incredible phobia that I have, to the point where any place I live, I am either on the basement level or between the second and the third floors. If I have to hit anything above the fifth floor, I'm no good living in that space. And I think that's only maybe happened once or twice. So immediately I clench up, I hold on to the bars, and I can't move. And my great niece, I want to say, yeah, she's about 7 or 8 now. Um, she yells, "Auntie, he told us not to look down." And so now everybody's at a halt and everyone's concerned with me. And now everybody's focus is now on me and getting me. And let me say this. So after I'm clenching and now my eyes are tightly closed shut, and my great niece says what she says to me. Moments after that, like the lid like comes unhinged. So now I'm not like dangling like I'll fall out into the open space, but the structure is now weakened and it's shifted. And so now everyone has to like brace themselves because of the weight that because of my weight of being unstable is now pulling it in that direction. And so now everyone's like, just open your eyes and just step up. Like just get up on this part of it so we can continue climbing, and it'll take the weight off of, it leaning in the outward direction. But I'm too scared. I am too frightened. I now have a full sense of how high we are, and I can't move, which essentially stops everyone, this long line of people behind me, from moving. And then I wake up. And it notes where I am right now, if I am to be completely honest. Um, in my tender moments of despair, where I am right now is due to me ascending and then, against all instructions, look down. Stuck between all of the agony that I am leaving behind, as well as being caught in the sensation of wanting what I was on my way to do before the traffic jam. And looking down ultimately halted everyone else's progress who was coming up behind me, let alone those who were before me. Now they are no longer ascending because they are concerned about me. And what ties into it from the night visions from the night before is that even though I am continuing to aspire into this life that I dream about, as well as the gracious embrace of him, and wanting to just be enveloped in his big masculine arms and 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 just held and be assured that not only am I on the right path, that I am surrounded by those that love me, and that I have someone that's strong enough to hold me up when I am weak and in this childlike state. And me being depicted inside the kitchen, still hosting, still doing that which I love, was an indication that I am still moving, but deep down inside, I am weak. And there are things that I have in the back of my mind that always seems to pop up to remind me of those areas where I really could use the strength of those that love me. Because for the last few years, I have been lost in space and time. And I have truly been doing my hermit thing. Overactive, actually. It's been overactive. So, being Capricorn Sun, Virgo Moon, Virgo Rising, my hermit mode has the tendency to take over in certain areas of my life. And since I've been ingrained in having home based businesses, because I'll say for 20 years being a hairstylist and a professional colorist, I may have spent maybe 40% of that inside an actual salon. Most of the time, I've had salons built around where I live at. Inside my home was a space carved out for me to service my clients so that I could still be the one to receive the kids and have dinner on time and things like that. Yes, between doing hair and doing laundry and getting homework done and so I've always been there when I'm in my most greatest strength. Finding a way to transmute that going into career number 3 has been such a tussle, and it's been full of hardship, and not merely because of me trying to find a way to work from home, but also during the mix or the transition of all of this, lost sight of myself, and me taking up uh, the cause to become a specialty niche with inside of life coaching, which I call, well, depending on what day you ask me, I will sum it up as either pro personal creativity coaching or it's golden chaos therapy, but it's really a combination of helping those fine tune the courtship with self and cultivating their imagination so that they may find space for their invisible muses and their invisible guide. And all of this came by way of me trying to refine, reconnect with myself. My lost sense of self is truly the provocateur and the corrections officer. of my hermit mode, which is the catalyst for me starting a campaign of walking the Black to Golden Mile. It mimics the Green Mile scenario, except we're not on our way to execution per se, even though we may be dying to our older selves, our past selves. But it's more so a walk of redemption to the newer that awaits you. And that's not always an easy task. We are so riddled in the mundane. And seeing as that I'm not really a good employee, I'm not really a good employee. My spurts inside the office, which I was able to weave in and out between making my salon efforts a part-time gig and going and acquiring full-time work in nonprofit marketing member services. I have weaved in and out of the office to the salon, from the salon to the office. But throughout the entire span of 20 years, I've always had a really robust base of clients that also were my friends and my counselors and my confidants and my aides and my support. And that's the component of my life that I miss so much, in addition to not being able to be with my babies on a daily basis, not being the one to serve them breakfast or cook for them. And it keeps an imbalance within my soul because my nana, to this day, I say her Capricorn energy saved my life. And the memory of her is what continues to save my life. She made it so that I became part of the decision making of how and where and why we were preparing food, serving food, being of service through food, being of healing through food. Her dinner parties were more like therapy sessions than they were for entertainment purposes. Her chocolate cake was like, yeah, that was big pharma. That was the antidepressant. So I know that a portion of my legacy dwells within that element. And the irony of all of that is that from the moment I lost sense of myself, I have not had a place of my own, a kitchen of my own, a dining space of my own. But inside my mind, I've always held space for that infamous supper party, Big Mama's Sunday dinners. I still hold space for that. But right at this very moment, I am facing a dilemma that could leave me homeless. And that might be a bit of an exaggeration only because the options that are before me is me yet again moving into someone else's home for the lack of having the income generation to be able to provide the landing, the platform where I can recharge and begin again all those other channels of income generation that can only be done from someone that actually owns the space. You can't really go into someone else's house and start, setting up shop. Not unless it's Bay, that and not even that. But I'll take it a step further to say it would have to be Bay that is emotionally invested in you, in your dream, in your success. That would have to be the type of Bay. And in my 3D, none of that is an option as I record this. but my studies, my gathering components for my private practices, my getting prepared to truly dig in to those that find themselves a client of mine. I have been on this self story study summit for some years now. So there are uh, a myriad of exercises and activities that I've been gathering in light of the moment where I will service clients again. And I guess I'm a bit bummed out because I am riddled. I am riddled. I am at a standstill. I am perplexed at the return on this investment called my hermit mode. I did not take my hermit modes lightly. I kept my head down to the point where I paved yet another unique lane of how I would sustain my self sufficiency. And if you were to look at my life from the outside, it bears no fruit that would give validation to all that I have been studying, observing, collecting, preserving. So I leave you with those thoughts. Just wanted to come on here real quick and share my time and space inside the very moment. And hopefully it will, if not anything else, affirm that there is a fine line between dream and nightmare. And I am pulling in the spiritual notions and the energy for which is available to me so that the decisions within the next couple of days will truly be a game changer, and that the bigger picture, it is inviting me, it is waiting on me. It does have legendary substance to it, and that I am not as disconnected from my better self as I feel I am right now. Um, and so, yeah, this is just a token of my transparency. I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone and posting it in the public domain for the sake of the evolution of the Coach Mad Hatter. It is maddening to be able to have to wear so many hats and be spread so thin just to keep afloat. And that when we fall or when we halter or when we become riddled to the point where we are stagnant or to the point where we are immovable, those who are immediately as well as distantly connected to us in some way, shape, form, or fashion, their ascension halts as well. And that's not to say that we are not to give in and allow a certain level of awareness and attention and contemplation to those moments when we do feel stuck or feel that our options do not reflect that which we've invested. We are to seek that which is enfolded, not gone, just enfolded. And so, if you've made it to this moment. I thank you for your presence as we are inside of the 44, 45 now, inside of the what I like to call the gate, the golden gateway. Sharpen up your golden compasses, and that is your willingness to share your story and your insights and your contemplations and your ponderings, because we are all in a line climbing this stair and this stairway to ascension, and being able to relay messages is what I like to call grapevine gratitude. It's a context that I am incubating now, inside of my specialty coaching practices, with the light and value of messages being transferred back and forth, as they will gain healing momentum as they ebb and flow between those that are sharing it. So thank you. Thank you for hanging with me. Thank you for your presence, and I wish you well.